it was dark in our house, but it wasn't cold because you see, my daddy had left the floor furnace turned up high because he knew that my big sister Linda Kay and I would want to get up before daylight, and he did not want his girls to be cold. That night when we went to bed, Daddy handed my big sister Linda Kay his watch because she could tell time. Girls, do not get up until at least 5 a.m. and do not wake your mother and me up. Well, I don't know how many times that night that I didn't punch my big sister and say, "Can we get up now?" And she'd get up, go in the bathroom where there was a little night light, come back. No. Finally, she said, "Jane, we can get up now." And so we got up in the dark and went through the hall with Linda Kay going, "Don't wake Mom and Daddy up, Jane." When we got to the living room door, Linda Kay opened it. The living room was as dark as our bedroom. Now, I couldn't reach the light switch, but my big sister Linda Kay could, and she flipped it. And our whole living room was filled with light. And it looked magical because in the corner was our Christmas tree with all the lights twinkling. And then there was presents all wrapped up underneath the tree. And then the things that Santa Claus had brought us. My sister went to her side of the tree and I went to my side of the tree. But it didn't take long for me to realize I did not get my Susie Walker doll. It was the very doll that my best friend Judith Ann, who lives right next door to me, and I found in the Parade magazine that comes in the commercial appeal for Memphis, Tennessee's Sunday paper. And in that magazine was a Susie Walker doll. She was tall enough that you could hold her hand, and as you walked along with her, well, she would turn her head and move her legs. She had braids just like Judith Ann and I did. And you could get her with blonde braids or brown braids. Well, Judith Ann had blonde hair and I had brown, so we knew exactly what to write to Santa Claus for. But she was not under my Christmas tree. Santa Claus had not brought her. Jane? Yes, ma'am? Mama was standing in the doorway. Is something the matter? Yes, ma'am, Santa Claus did not bring me my Susie Walker doll. Well, wait a minute, let's look a bit. Well, we didn't look very long and she just wasn't there. Mama said, "Jane, look, there's something on the plate where we left Santa Claus's cookies and his eggnog. Go get it and bring it to me." And sure enough, there was a note there. I couldn't tell what it said though, because it was written in real writing. And I took it over to my mama and she said, "Oh, Jane, this letter is to you. Sit down by me and I'll read it to you." It said, "Dear Jane, I know you asked for a Susie Walker doll, but you know, you're going to get a very special surprise before long. And so I'm taking your Susie Walker doll to a little girl who's very poor and won't get anything much at all for Christmas." Now, Jane, it's Christmas. I know you'll understand about this. And I love you, Santa Claus. Well, I knew you weren't supposed to cry on Christmas morning, and I was trying real hard not to. And I knew you weren't supposed to be mad at Santa Claus, but I think I was mad at Santa Claus, but I smiled. I said, okay. And Mama said, well, go play with your toys, girls, and I'm going to go cook breakfast. We heard Mama call. Come on, breakfast is on the table. And we gathered around the table. Even my daddy got up to drink that coffee and eat his breakfast. We went back in the living room, and that's when we opened the presents from our family and friends. Until our living room was just this huge, gigantic mess with ribbons and paper and all kinds of gifts. And Mama said, okay, little girls, it is your job to clean up all this paper and put the presents back up underneath the tree. My big sister and I got busy doing what Mama said, and she went off to the kitchen. Oh, I could smell the oranges she was cutting up for the ambrosia, and I couldn't wait to eat some caramel cake that she'd been working on forever, it seemed like. And then it was daylight at last, and I knew I could go next door to see my friend Judith Ann and see what she got for Christmas. I headed out the side door, and I ran through the hedge where there was a little opening between the houses. And I could see my friend Judith Ann walking up and down her front sidewalk, holding her Susie Walker doll's hand. I said, Judith Ann, you got a Susie Walker doll. Yeah, Jane, where's yours? Santa Claus didn't bring me one. Oh, what'd you do so you didn't get a doll? I didn't do anything, Judith Ann. Judith Ann, did you tell Santa Claus you were a poor little girl and you got my doll? Jane, what in the world are you talking about? Look at my doll. She's got blonde pigtails like me. You're right, Judith Ann. Jane, you didn't get a doll at all? Mm-mm. Well, when I get back from eating Christmas dinner with my grandmama and granddaddy, I'll come back to your house and I'll let you play with my Susie Walker doll just a little bit. Thank you, Judith Ann. Well, when I got back, it was almost getting real close to dinner time, and I had to help set the table. You know, that's when we got to use Mama's pretty knives and forks and all of her pretty plates. And my sister and I always set the table. And some friends and my aunt and uncle from up the street came to eat with us. And then everybody was gone. And Mama just left the dishes on the table, and she said, I got to sit down a while. We were all just sitting in the living room, and there was a knock at the door. I ran to the door. I opened it, and there stood my aunt sister from Florida. I did not think she was coming for Christmas. I was so excited. I nearly forgot all about my Susie Walker doll. Well, she came in and said, sit on the floor right here, Jane, and she put a package in my hand. I could tell by the size of the package it was not a Susie Walker doll. And so I opened up the present, and inside was a doll trunk. It was red, and I flipped the little latch on it, and when I opened it, there was a doll with brown pigtails, and it had on a little, and she had on a little dress just like one that I wore. And then on the other side were all the doll clothes, and nearly every one of the clothes was just like something I had, like my blue jeans and little red plaid shirt. I looked up at my aunt's sister and I said, where did you get all these clothes? They're just like mine. She laughed. You know, I've been sewing and sewing since September, making all these clothes. Every time Miss Sally Will, the lady who sewed for us, would make you something, she'd send me the scraps. And I would make something for your doll, Jane. Oh, she was wonderful, my doll. And when Judith Ann got back, we got to play a little bit. And Judith Ann looked at my doll and said, "Oh, Jane, it's got a dress just like yours, and she's got on a hat like your mama makes you wear to church." Well, Judith Ann let me hold the Susie Walker doll's hand, and I walked up and down the sidewalk in our front lawn. And Judith Ann, well, I let her change my doll's clothes just 3 times before she had to go home. And that night when I got in the bed, well, you know, there had been some happy and sad surprises on this Christmas. But I just hope that that little girl that got my Susie Walker doll loves her as much as I love my new doll that my aunt's sister gave me for Christmas. The end.